Welcome into the electrifying world of Wide Eye Sports, the podcast that brings you the latest in NFL news, stories, and not so expert analysis on all things NFL. Buckle up as we dive into the exhilarating 2023 NFL season. Welcome back to Wide Eye Sports. We love having you guys back here. You got Brenner hosting the show again. We got Dalton, Lane, and Riley back as always. And this week we have a very special guest, Wide Eye's own fantasy football guru,
the prodigy
Victor.
himself.
Yeah. I don't know about a prodigy, but I do my fair share of research. If I'm not listening to music, I am listening to someone give their opinion on fantasy football. So I am a so-called nerd. But with that being said, this year I'm actually in 15 fantasy football leagues. Have some teams that are doing great, some teams that are doing miserably, and a team that is tanking but still almost won a week. So
Hey, that's
great.
All right. What's your football background, Vic? Let everybody know your football background at home.
So born and raised in Fort Worth, Texas. So I played football from whenever I was 6 until I was about 21. Played semi-pro for a few years. Had to retire due to concussions. Probably for the best, because once I stopped playing football, I stopped having seizures. Kind of a weird correlation, but we're not going to talk about that right now. And then on top of that, I've been doing fantasy football since I was about 14, 15 years old. And last year I was in 14 leagues, was a top seed, and 11 of them end up winning 6 titles.
So born and raised in Fort Worth, I see
Congratulations
you're wearing a
on those.
Broncos hoodie. What made you become a Broncos fan? If you don't mind me asking.
Yeah.
Oh,
My
okay.
dad is actually from the Denver
Okay,
area.
I was just
so
curious.
that's what raised me to be a Broncos
See,
fan. I was born to love the Broncos and hate Cowboys
Fuck
fans.
you.
So sorry for y'all.
See, I thought it was because you also love pain and suffering like Vikings fans, so that's what I thought it was.
Well, at least the Broncos have won a Super Bowl this millennium and in their history, so we're
What's
not as bad as the
a
Vikings
Super Bowl?
fans. We have more recency bias than the Cowboys at least. So, and also we haven't lost to the Cowboys in 30 years.
Hey,
so
there
it's
we
kinda
go.
great.
All right. With all that, Victor, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We'll get you your own segment a little later on. As for now, you're just going to join us in the weeklies. So we're going to start off with everybody's MVP and biggest loser of the week. I'll go first. My MVP of the week, and this is a little outside the box, but my MVP is TJ Watt. TJ Watt this season is tied for the league in sacks, 4. Now, granted, only 2 games in, but this past week, he got up to the total of 4. He had a fumble return for a touchdown, and he became the Steelers' all-time leading sack leader. And just the way he's played, he's just on a tear. He's playing really good right now. He's leading a good defense. I'm gonna take TJ Watt all day. And then my biggest loser is going to be the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals had everything. They forgot they were tanking for like a half, and then they remembered, oh shit, we're supposed to lose. My bad. So they almost fucked up tanking. So they still lost the game. So they just to a not so great Giants team in my opinion. So I'm gonna have Arizona be my biggest loser. Dalt.
Cool. So I'm thinking that Lamar Jackson is going to be my MVP of this week. Coming out with a hurt Odell in that game and still beating the Bengals, who were fighting for their lives. Joe Burrow is fighting for his life, and they still won that game. Ravens 2-0, looking really good. And then my biggest loser is Nick Bosa. He is another person who I'm going to add onto the list of guys who just got a huge deal and really aren't producing as expected. 0 sacks out of 2 games. Highest paid defensive player in the league, 0 sacks. And I think that's just wild.
Highest paid non-quarterback ever.
Yeah. I mean, you would have thought he would have had 1 at least in
He's off to a slow start
they
for
didn't
sure.
they didn't play anybody with a great, offensive line. So,
I didn't. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Niners are off to a friggin' red hot start.
Great start.
But that doesn't mean
Yeah.
he is necessarily off to a red hot start.
exactly.
I haven't looked that much into it, but based on what you're saying,
So
Lane?
my biggest winner of the week, or my MVP of the week, man, it's probably it's going to be as similar to last week, but I'm going to go with Baker Mayfield. So I just think that once again he stepped up.
Ooh.
He played a fantastic game, throwing for over 300 yards. Now, I was going to wait and see if Riley said anything later on about the Bears because I saw there's a couple clips that I kind of wanted to try to bring into this, but I'm not going to, about how Justin Fields played. Wasn't great.
we
Okay.
can do a segment on Justin
Wasn't-
Fields sometimes.
it wasn't. I know you could. It wasn't great, but on the opposite side of the ball, I think that Baker Mayfield just stepped up.
I could talk all day
Threw
about
for
it.
317 yards, 1 TD, no turnovers. I'll take that. 114 passer rating. In a game that I thought was going to be much closer than it actually was. I thought that the Bears were actually going to step up a little bit this week after, getting fucking their dicks kicked in last week. But yeah, that obviously was not the case. Nope.
Really, nope.
My biggest loser this week is probably the Raiders and Jimmy Garoppolo. That
Oof,
one was
yeah.
tough. I mean, they went in last week. They beat a division rival, and I thought they were going to play much better than they did this week. But Garoppolo just didn't have a great game, throwing for 2 picks. So that's probably my biggest loser of the week. Riley, what's yours, man?
So my MVP, and I might get some eye rolls for this, but I'm going to go with Josh Allen. After his week 1 performance, he really needed to play well this week. He went 31 for 37 for 274 and 3 tuds. I understand it was against the Raiders, but it's called the get right game. KC has one against the Bears next week, and Josh Allen got right. But my biggest loser is going to be Trevor Lawrence. Now, I thought coming into this game it was going to be super high scoring, but it really wasn't. Trevor went 22 out of 41 for 216 and no tuds and no picks. And with an offense of that caliber, that just cannot be happening. Now, I didn't watch
Chris
the
Jones.
game, so I
Chris
don't
Jones.
know.
I'll say that I
into
did watch
him
this
playing
game,
like
and honestly,
But
whenever
when
we
you
talk
have,
about the game being a game of inches, that's exactly
that
what happened in this
team
game.
small
There was two. There was two.
It literally, that Calvin Ridley no
and then,
touchdown
I think
was.
it was Zay Jones, right? In the back corner. If he
Yep,
just
Zay Jones.
he literally could have had both feet in bounds.
Well, the back corner
Yeah,
was
that was
Calvin
one
Ridley.
of them. But there was another one where.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Zay Jones was on the
Yeah,
very
yeah,
back
yeah.
line, and his
Exactly.
corner.
So
of
there's
his
two
spike
there's
at
two
his heel
touchdowns
Yeah,
that
yeah,
Trevor
touchdown
Lawrence
about.
could have had in that game, but he literally his wide receivers just missed it by inches, dude. So it's
But
I will say this about that game. Chris Jones, 40.7%
But,
win rate while pass rushing. That's massive.
oh my gosh. But I really felt like this was a game where the
Oh,
Jags
absolutely.
could
I
come
agree.
in and
Yeah.
solidify
Yep,
themselves
I agree
as one of
completely.
the dominant teams in
With
the
that,
AFC, and they
we're gonna
just
move
didn't
on
get
here.
that.
To
Did Victor have any?
the-
MVPs.
Vic, do you have any? Do you have any? I didn't. I had it. All right,
I
hit
stay
hit
with
us.
you.
Hit us with your
I'm
MVP of
always
the week.
ready. So my personal MVP
Oh,
for even
boy,
for the first 2 weeks
yeah.
has been Puka
Okay,
Nacua.
yeah.
Solely due to the
I like
Fantasy
it, I
numbers?
like it.
Absolutely.
He's someone that he's someone that I targeted a lot of my dynasty leagues as like a 3rd round pick in rookie drafts, and people were just like, "Who is this person?" I was like, "You'll see soon enough."
We seeing. We seeing.
And, with you being he's actually a 5th round draft pick out of BYU, rated 37th among wide receivers after the production and athleticism scores that NFL.com rated him as, and he's just came out and played almost like a Cooper
Yeah.
Kupp clone. It'll be interesting to see how these two mesh together. whenever they do come to if Cooper Kupp even plays
Yeah,
this season, let's
seriously.
be honest. He's got very soft hamstrings, it seems, and the past couple years has been very rough for him. But I actually kind of have two losers. One is the Cincinnati wide receivers, because for some reason, with Joe Burrow missing the whole preseason, they just can't seem to get right with their quarterback. And on the flip side, and still in the AFC North, Deshaun
Yeah.
Watson. He's someone that everyone was looking at. It's like, oh, he's
Except
going to
for
have
me.
a bounce back year. He's going to be a top 5 quarterback and
He
all this
fried.
stuff. But he looks sluggish whenever I was watching the game. So, given I was at work, so I didn't get to see a lot of plays. But there's some quarterback draws where I just see him
Yeah,
look
dude,
like he's
he
running
is
in mud almost,
mentally fried,
and just
mentally
stuck.
gone.
But
But
yeah, the Cincinnati wide receivers is a staff that
Yeah.
we figured is, one of the top in the NFL. But whenever Joe Burrow can't get
it's
you
tough.
the ball,
It's tough. Burrow's banged
bad
up.
whenever he's
He's
hurt.
not playing well. The whole Cincinnati team isn't really playing too hot. For having one of the best trios in the league, I completely agree. But with that, we're gonna move on to our games of the week. So let me go ahead and share my screen here. Everybody got that up? Everybody see that? All right. So first off, come over here. It's going to be me. And I am going to go Saints at Packers. And I am absolutely the biggest homer in the world when it comes to hating on the Packers, being a Vikings fan. But this game, I think, is going to be a really good game. I think these are two really even teams. Vegas has the Packers minus 3.5, and usually 3 is about the home field advantage line. So it's really like Packers, minus half a point in a neutral site. So I think this is going to be a really tough game. I went over all the stats, just everything I could think of, passing yards, points per game, everything I could think of. And it was a dead even split on who won what. Passing yards, rushing yards, passing attempts, receiving, everything. It's a dead split down the middle. It was 12-12 in the categories. I think I have Green Bay winning this just because they're at home, but I think it's going to be a really good game. Next up, we got... It'll go. Maybe. Oh, I turned it off. Ha! I messed this up. So I have it set to a minute each. And I guess I disabled the... There we go. So everybody gets a minute to talk about their game of the week.
Yes.
Dalton?
Eagles Bucks. Okay.
Cool. Everybody see it? Yeah, Eagles Bucks. I think this is going to be a really, really cool game. It was honestly like the only interesting game, like in my point of view. The Saints, Brenner, you definitely made the Saints Packers game sound much more interesting, but I really just think that the Saints. I really think Derek Carr and the Saints are going to win that game. I think Jordan Love.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
I really hope they do.
I hope so too.
I wouldn't sleep on the Packers if Aaron
Yeah,
Jones
no,
gets
for
healthy,
sure.
though.
But
I like this Eagles-Bucks matchup.
Actually,
though.
yeah.
yeah,
a lot
I
as
think
well.
Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield. He's on a hot streak, and he's got something to prove. Jalen Hurts and the Eagles are doing well, doing better. I mean, they're 2-0 right now, so granted they haven't played crazy awesome teams. They played some good teams, but I wouldn't say they've had like a real test
Yeah.
just yet. But yeah,
Both
I'm excited.
2-0, both playing really well.
I'm excited for this Monday night game.
Now we got Lane.
All right, so yeah, I picked Chargers Vikings, and I thought Brenner was going to pick this game, honestly. But
I couldn't do
I mean,
it.
I don't blame you, but
Ugh.
realistically, I have two teams here
nervous.
that realistically could both be in the playoffs, and they're both starting out 0-2. So that is the whole reason why I have this game up there, is because this is a very important win for both of them if they can get it done. The Chargers just lost to they just lost to the they just lost to the Dolphins in a very close game, and then they lose in overtime to the Titans. Like, they're right there. They could be 2-0 very well. The Vikings are right there as well. They could be as well 2-0.
Yeah. If Vikings don't have
Exactly.
7 turnovers
Yeah,
in 8 quarters.
they're right there. Both these teams could very well be 2-0 instead of 0-2, but this is my game of the week because I think I just think it's a very important game for both of them to get a win here, because you don't want to start out 0-3 at all.
I agree completely. All right, next up, we got Riley.
That's going to be a barn burner.
So I went with Bengals Rams. I think the Bengals are on the verge of spiraling. They're 0-2, and they have not been looking good through the first 2 weeks. Now, the Rams, a lot of guys were low on coming into the season, but they've really played well through the first 2 games. So I think if the Rams can pull this off, it's time to start putting a little more respect on their names and
Yeah.
maybe start to worry a little bit in Cincinnati if you're
that's
sitting
going to
there
be. They did start
0-3
0. The
with or
Bengals did start
without
0-2
Joe
last year and ended up winning the AFC North. So it's not
Yeah.
like
But
we're not,
not
at
full panic
blown
yet.
like. We're not at,
yeah, but those
we're not at
losses,
full panic.
those losses were different. Go
Yeah,
ahead, Riley.
What?
but they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were both
Yeah,
in
no,
division.
It's not.
They
We're
were
not
both
saying they're in a great
division
spot.
losses.
All right, next up is the
Yeah,
Power
curious.
Five, the
Curious
weekly
where we're
Power
at on here
Fives,
now.
and
Love this.
everybody's curious. Everybody's been asking where we're at, and I'm gonna let you guys know. The Power Five this week did not change one
Really?
bit. It was the exact same based on averages as last week. It didn't. Everybody, I got all the math right here written down. I mean, everything is here, and it's Dallas and the 49ers. This did make me think a little bit though about, is the NFC actually a little more top heavy than the AFC? Like, we thought
Yes.
the NFC was super wide open and anybody could win it, and the AFC is just, there's powerhouses over there. There's gonna be like 3 teams. I mean, the NFC is
no,
looking
when it-
tough.
When it
I mean,
came to the
San
NFC,
Francisco-
I thought that there was just 3 powerhouse teams, and that was it, which is exactly what we have in our Power 5. I just thought that the AFC, we'd see a
Yeah.
little more. Like, honestly, I figured by week 2 we would at least have 3 or 4 AFC teams in our Power 5. But right now, it's not looking like that at all. I mean, mine's a little different.
I will
but
say,
I won't go over that.
Baltimore and Washington both got
Washington
votes this
got
week,
votes.
which were
Washington.
yep.
I mean,
Washington
I'll-
got a vote. Washington.
I mean,
got a
I'll say
5th
that I
place
did
vote.
have Baltimore at my 5, but no, I didn't. I did not vote for Washington at all. Not putting the Commanders
Yeah,
up
no,
there.
we had Washington at 5. We had 3 people put Baltimore in, and they fell just short of Kansas City in the voting. So, or of Philadelphia in the voting.
Okay.
I apologize. So they were 1 point behind Philadelphia. Baltimore was. So that would be our 6th team technically. But yeah, no, it was a very close, very close there. 1 point difference between Philly and Baltimore getting into that top 5. So I think the Eagles are a better team. Like, if Philly was playing Baltimore this week, I would take Philly at -3.5. Personally, I don't know if you guys have any difference in opinion on that, but I don't think Baltimore would beat Philly right now.
Hmm.
I wouldn't either. I think that
I
would be a
wouldn't sleep
much
on the
better game than
Baltimore
what we
defense,
think, and
personally.
it depends on where they're at too. If Baltimore's if
I think it'd
Baltimore's
be a
home,
good
game.
I think they would take that game. Personally,
I think Philly wins that.
It is 2 hard-nosed running
Philly,
teams just going at each other.
I don't know. This may be
there you go.
this may be a little bit of a hot take, but
I agree.
Okay,
I'm
but
right there
every
with you.
Philly win I've watched, I've gotten lower on the team. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're winning games, but the play isn't there. And one of the comparisons I saw was, what was a team last year that was they're winning, but it was the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, no.
They're winning, but they're all 1-score games, and they were wild card exits. So I'm a little interested.
my thing with
to
Philly
see
and why I
if
think that
if that
people
is
are
what's
people are
happening
down on them for
to
exactly all the reasons you just gave. But my thing with Philly is they went in on Thursday night and beat the Vikings when they couldn't pass at all. They decided our pass game isn't there. We're just going to run the ball, and there's nothing you can do to stop us. Part of that is the Vikings' very suspect run defense, but part of that is also the pure dominance of that offensive line in that run game that just doesn't matter if we can't throw the ball. We're just going to beat you on the ground. So It shows that even if they're made one-dimensional, they can still win a football game, and that's a very, very important trait because one would think they'll get that passing game back on point. It did irritate me a lot watching that game with AJ Brown on the sideline throwing a hissy fit when they were up 10 points. Like, you're up in a game.
Wide receivers are divas.
Yeah, but
it's just how it is. It doesn't matter what the situation is. They're going to throw
There's
a
a
fit.
difference between some wide receivers and others. I mean, most wide receivers will throw a fit if they're down and they're not getting the ball. AJ Brown's team was up, and he's throwing a fit. Like, you're winning. What more do you want? Like you want the team to be in jeopardy because they pass more?
Yeah, it's just selfish.
He wants to have 200 yards like Kyrie.
Just dumb to me. So I didn't like that as far as Philly's concerned. They need to get their egos in check. But with that, does anybody have anything to say about week 2 of the NFL that they want to get off their chest before we move on?
With that Vikings though that you bring up, that's definitely a game that should have been a lot more one-sided with the Butterfingers that the Vikings did bring to the table for some reason.
Telling a Vikings fan over here, he knows.
And if you win the turnover battle by 2 or 3 turnovers, you should probably win by at least 2 possessions, not by, 5 points, 6 points. And then with the game week with the Buccaneers this week, their entire team is going to have to play through their defense. If they can't stop the Philly run game, it's just going to be a bloodbath, in my opinion. Because if Baker Mayfield has to throw the ball, have the game rest on his shoulders, then it's going to be probably a wake-up game for a lot of Buccaneers fans, in my humble opinion.
I like that take. With that, we will move on from that to Riley, who is going to be from moving forward, is going to be our scoops guy on Jonathan Taylor. Riley, do you have any updates, news, facts on where Jonathan Taylor might go, where he might land, anything on the Jonathan Taylor front?
So he was posting videos of himself working out in the Colts facility a couple days ago. So going into the season, there was some speculation on if he's going to play, is he not going to play?
Okay.
I think he is going to play after he comes off of IR. Now, when I was looking for landing spots for him, I was looking for a team that was within range of the Super Bowl and would be willing to give up a late first, because that's what Jim Irsay is wanting. He doesn't want to pay him like a number 1 back, but he wants compensation like he's a number 1 back. So the 3 teams I kind of came up with were number 1, Miami. They tried to acquire him before the season, but Jim Irsay, I want to say he wanted a first and Jalen Waddle. Maybe now he'll come down to earth a little bit, but I think JT on that roster with as much speed as they have, he would be a great change of pace guy, where the linebackers are running sideline to sideline all game, and then they have to come up the middle to get Jonathan Taylor. My second spot was KC, kind of for the same reason. Offensively, they're kind of in a slump, and I feel like Jonathan Taylor could really open up that offense. And then the Buffalo Bills, but James Cook is playing very well, so I really don't see. I'm starting to get lower and lower on the Bills trading for him. But a lot of this comes down to what Jim Irsay wants to do. And I also think it's coincidental. During the offseason, he was making Twitter posts talking about how his back feels fine, he feels fine, and then he goes on IR, right?
Yeah.
Well, over the weekend, the NFL filed a grievance towards the NFL.
It said exacerbate.
They were advising players
injuries.
to fake injuries for contract leverage. And yes. And I would not be surprised at all, just because this entire thing, the way Jim Irsay's handled it, the way Jonathan Taylor's handled it, it's all seemed fishy to me. Like there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we weren't seeing. So I could very easily see Jim Irsay sitting there
Absolutely.
being like, all right, you want to say you're
No,
hurt, you can go on IR and not play. You know what I mean? But as far as payment goes, I did a little bit of digging on the running backs this year, right? So when I start talking contract numbers, realize these are all averages. So right now, Christian McCaffrey is averaging $16 million a year. That makes him the 20th highest paid wide receiver. He has more yards than all the guys paid more than him and more tuds than 19 of the 20 guys in front of him. Austin Eckler is the 40th highest paid wide receiver. He has more yards and touchdowns than 36 of the 40 guys in front of him. And Aaron Jones is the 24th paid wide receiver, has more yards than 17 and more tuds than 21 out of 24. And keep in mind, Austin Eckler's only played one game. With his one game stats, he is doing
crazy.
better than 36 of the guys that are paid more than him that are wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I really feel like those. Now, I don't think running backs are going to be getting paid $30 million like Tyreek Hill. But if you want to say they need to start getting in the 15 to 20 range, I can very easily see that. You know what I mean? But where we're at right now, I think he comes back and plays, and it'll be very interesting to see.
Good to know. The only thing I would add to that is I did see at some point that Green Bay had offered to trade for him before the season started when Miami did. And so they could possibly be a destination. Yeah. There was a mystery team that offered late first round pick, and it ended up being Green Bay. So with Aaron Jones hurt, AJ Dillon not exactly panning out to what they thought he would be, could be a possible destination down the road.
And you don't necessarily know that's a late first either. I don't know why you wouldn't. If that was the offer on the table, I don't know why you don't take that, because you can say it's a late pick.
Yeah,
but
and maybe it was
a
a high second, and that's why they said late first, because it's closer to a high second than it is a late first or early first, late first type thing. But well, thank you for keeping us in the loop, and we'll as week 4 approaches closer, we will keep a closer eye on the Jonathan Taylor front. With that, we have I am not running back should just suck it up personally. But I don't play running back. I'm not an NFL caliber player, and it's not my business. So with that, we're gonna move on to is it time to panic with Cooner in the lead? So Lane, do you want to go ahead and take over?
So I'm starting a new segment this week. It's called Panic Room. Basically, is it just panic time for any of these teams? I'm gonna do it for a few weeks until we get closer to the playoffs. But I kind of last minute I did some changes, not gonna lie. Mostly just because of how teams are in their divisions and stuff. Right now, I'm gonna say I'm doing 3 teams. I have a team on the outside that's kind of looking in. I have a team that's almost there, and then I have a team that is literally there that should be panicking right now. I just want you guys to talk about it a little bit, see if y'all agree or not. But right now, as the third team that I have, like on the outside looking in a little bit, that should be panicking, is the Minnesota Vikings. So I know, Brenner, you probably don't that take at all, but
no, I agree. I actually agree with it. I
think we all agree with that take.
Hey, shut your mouth. As a
now listen. The reason I have them on the outside looking in is because realistically they're 0-2. The Bears are 0-2. Lions and Packers are both 1-1. Still easy. Like, it's only week 2. They can still easily come back. Exactly. All of them.
Vikings were the only team not to lose on Sunday.
Because I lost on Thursday.
The entire NFC North lost.
Hey, that's not important. The important part is they're the only NFC North team
that's
that
why I
didn't
have
lose on
them on the outside looking in, because realistically they still can. But I just figured by now they would at least have 1, maybe 2 wins. But I mean, they're sitting 0-2, guys. So
sitting 0-2. I would like to say to that, if the Vikings as a team can fix their turnover problem, I think we're fine. Like, our offense is 3rd in the league in yards per play behind Buffalo and Miami. Like, we are moving the ball with ease at will against Tampa Bay and Philly, who are both 2-0. And I just, like, if you just don't turn the ball over, it's fine.
Riley,
But
I almost put
unfortunately,
the Bears on my list as well, but I just feel like, well, because I want to say they were the team that they were.
Why didn't you? We are
I just want to say they were on the outside looking in.
Bears Twitter is the most depressed place on earth.
real quick,
I have
can I
never seen
chime
a
in real quick? Going back to the
franchise
Vikings,
so
one more thing to add.
drained
We
before
just
a
signed
banner.
Dalton Reisner yesterday, who played the past 4 seasons for the Denver Broncos as a guard,
Hopefully that
and
helps, guys.
he is a really good pass protecting guard. So Kirk Cousins just got the best available free agent at guard from this past offseason to step in and protect him a little better, because Kirk has already been hit more than any other. He's first in the league in quarterback hits,
Oh wow.
and he's at 16 in 2 games, and that doesn't include sacks. So he's been hit a lot already, so they've made a move to try to shore up some of that offensive line. So
Cool.
I'll stop there and let
Yeah,
Spoon
that
give his
offensive
second
line
team.
looks a little rough. Hopefully that helps him out a little bit.
Garbage.
So my second team, like I said, the Bears were just on the outside. I almost had them in this, but I think that we weren't really expecting them to be a playoff team, maybe a wild card team at best. So we could still see a little bit of a turnaround there. My next team is the Los Angeles Chargers. So the other reason I have them there is because once again they are also sitting at 0-2. I mean they're a good team. They've come up short. They do have another tough matchup this week, once again against the Minnesota Vikings. So I have them just on. They're almost panic mode. But the reason why, once again, they're not is because they are sitting at 0-2, and there's no other team in their division that is 2-0. So I don't think they're quite there to panic. But once again, that's why I had Chargers Vikings as my game of the week, because it is such an important game for both these teams. They both either one of them need to get a win. Anybody?
Yeah.
Anything to say on the Chargers?
I mean, yeah. I was pulling it up right here. Justin Herbert went off and passed for 342 yards. Let me see if I can find it here. Sorry, I'm trying to pull up the box score real quick. He had, I believe it was 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and Derrick Henry had less than 100 yards, and they still lost.
It's just
to the
that
Titans.
it's that defense that
Like-
the Chargers need to. They need to work on it.
Like it's just you just can't. Let me see here.
Because
player
Justin Herbert
stats.
did not play bad at all. 104 passer rating. He threw 27 for 41, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, he played fine. He didn't do anything wrong. It's just that defense.
No, passer rating of 104.2. Yeah, no, he played really well. That defense, I mean, Ryan Tannehill only went for 246 and a tud, so he did. And the defense sacked Ryan Tannehill 5 times, and they still lost, which is absolutely insane to me. They're just as baffling to me as the Vikings are. So, but I think they're a very good team that has been very unlucky, similar to another team from the segment. So
Have not been. I from the start I was not hyped on the Chargers. Did not think that they really were going to be. This is exactly where I thought they were going to be. So
I mean, they've
Okay.
lost 2
All right.
games by a total of 5 points in the first 2 weeks. So they're
yeah, no, that's rough.
I think they were the first team to
yeah,
score
and
over 50
they
points
are
and start
Power
out
5.
0-2.
We have the Dolphins at 3. That is the team that they lost to by 2 points. Like they're right up there. They
Yeah.
just
True.
yeah. I'm ready to start
Yeah.
panicking just a little bit if I'm a Chargers fan. But the team that I'm really panicking on right now, the Cincinnati Bengals. So I
Yeah.
did not want to put them at number 1 because, like Brenner said before, they did start out 0-2 last year and they still won the division. But the problem is that
but
they're 3 games back right now, and the reason I say 3 games is because the Ravens are 2-0. The Ravens get the tiebreaker right now against the Bengals. So they would as of right now they are 3 games back from number 1 because they would have to get that another win just to jump above them. And I'm panicking a little bit if I'm a Bengals fan. I mean, putting up 3 points in week 1,
Yeah.
that wasn't. I mean, I know we talked about that a little bit, but then going to to home and losing to the Ravens, like they are.
I mean, the Ravens are a good team,
Yeah.
but you can't lose at home with the expectations the Bengals have as a team, and you just can't. That's not acceptable for that team. You have to be better than that.
Yeah.
And also, there's potential that Joe Burrow could.
Yeah,
That's
no,
the
that's
biggest
that's the
here.
biggest thing is they're looking at potentially being 0-3 because I think if Joe Burrow doesn't play this weekend, I don't think there's a chance that they win that game.
Who's their backup?
If they,
against the Rams, absolutely not.
yeah,
I can tell
just-
you right now,
Yeah.
it is Jake Browning.
Jake Browning, former UW kid, Seattle shout out. But
If Burrow,
no,
if
I
Burrow
think
does
they
not
are
play
basically
next week against the Rams, the Rams definitely get that win. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely
that the Rams receiving core
yeah.
will.
If I'm
eat them
a
alive.
if I'm a
thought you were gonna
Bengals
say the
fan, I'm
Broncos
panicking a little bit.
Yeah, I would be panicking a lot.
The statement of you saying the Rams receiving core is going to eat up the Bengals without
But it's
having
true.
to look up
Isn't
the
it?
It's 100%
Isn't
true.
it?
So that's
But
what's
it's
crazy
true.
about it.
If you watch the
Tutu
Tutu
Atwell
Atwell,
and Puka
baby.
Nakua are swinging
fucking
above their
love
weight class
Tutu
at this
Atwell.
point, and it's
and
just
Puka Nacua. I'm a big receiver guy. I
Alright.
love that. I love that a lot for
Yeah.
them. It's great.
Yep, that's my
All right,
take
with
on it.
that, we're gonna move on. Yeah, no. So Riley and myself each took some time to go over some of the, higher echelon or upper echelon teams in the NFL that are succeeding at a very high level right now in the Cowboys and the Niners. And we just we thought, like, what are their windows? What are the Cowboys and the Niners windows? And we just broke down their cap. So I'm going to go first. And I had the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm sorry, Dalton and Lane, I see the Cowboys window as about 2 years. You got 2 years unless you draft really well. You have
Yep.
this year and next year, because I got it right here. Let me pull it up here for you.
I'm just gonna go ahead before you
gotta
even
get
start. I'm gonna
paid.
say that 2 years is about what I had.
Yeah,
If not
no,
this year,
right.
next year. If not next year, oof.
I mean, after this season, here's a list of their free agents coming up this year. They have Dante Fowler, their third edge rusher.
Yep.
Jaron Kearse, their number one free safety.
Mhm.
They have Pollard, running back 1, Gilmore, cornerback 2, Tyron Smith, left tackle, their cornerback 3, their cornerback 4, and their defensive tackle 1 and Jonathan Hankins are all free agents after this season.
Yep.
So you're going into next season, as of right now, with 1 starter at cornerback. And in this league, you need 3 because you got to have a right, a left, and a dime package guy. So, and then going into the 25 season, so 24 free agency, you'll be losing Dak, Zach Martin, DeMarcus Lawrence, Brandon Cooks, Trey Lance, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Rush, Leighton Vander Esch, Micah Parsons, Malik Hooker, and your guys' right tackle Steele. I mean,
Well,
that is
not worried about Micah. Not worried about Dak.
no. I got
Cowboys
Yeah,
for
yeah, no.
life.
I mean, Dak may not be a Cowboy for life.
If he doesn't produce this year or next year, then yeah, I'd say
I'd say we're gonna move on. From
he
there.
doesn't have any more excuses. Yeah, we don't have any more
Yeah.
excuses. That's why I think Jerry made all these big moves, because it needs to happen this year or next year. That's why
I agree.
and I
Yeah.
I don't want to. You know what? Never mind. I'm not even gonna say that. But yeah, go continue.
So the after this season, it's kind of manageable, right? Like they have to pay Pollard, Tyron Smith, Jaron Kearse can walk. You can find another free safety. Hankins can walk. You can find another D tackle. Gilmore, you probably let walk for the price, and then
Yeah.
Fowler probably re-signs at a lower cost. Like that's a manageable thing. Where it becomes an issue is in 24, because as of right now, the Cowboys have $125 million to spend that year in free agency to re-sign all the players I mentioned, all the starters that I mentioned at their average annual value would cost $155 million. So you're already negative $30 million if you just sign your starters back. And that's not anybody else you're losing. That's just the bona fide starters. So the Cowboys are going to, 1, have to draft really well, or 2, have some really tough decisions to make. So I don't see them, like, unless they draft really well, which is always a possibility with any team. Drafting well is so hit and miss. So many teams do it good some years and are totally bad net the other years. It's just a weird thing. But the Cowboys are really going to struggle after next season. It's just, I mean, you're losing your quarterback one, your left guard one, your D end one, your cornerback one. You're losing your defensive end one. I mean,
Yeah.
linebacker one. So wide receiver, you're losing your wide receiver, all ones. Wide receiver one, cornerback one, D end one,
Yep.
quarterback one, and those are the four most important positions in football.
It's gonna be
those four.
It's gonna be an interesting year for the Cowboys to see what Jerry Jones does to sign and keep the guys that he needs. You know what I mean?
And some of those guys are getting old, so like they're gonna want to move on from them anyway. So I'm not saying all these guys are going to come back, because DeMarcus Lawrence, he's gonna be like 33 at that time. You're not paying DeMarcus Lawrence $13 million a year to come back and play for 2 more years.
Yeah.
It's just Zach Martin's gonna be 31 years old then. Like, you're not paying those guys. Brandon Cooks will be, I think he'll be 31 too. I think he's 30, so he'll be 32. So it's just, they got a lot. Leighton Vander Esch will be getting up there at that time too. So it's
I'll be sad to see him leave.
On the point of the Dak, though, if I'm not mistaken, in 24, so after this year, I believe they don't lose a lot of dead cap.
No, they
if he
don't.
gets
They
cut.
it's a huge reprieve.
So that could be a chance where they restructure his deal, much like
Yeah,
they're doing
absolutely.
with Patrick Mahomes right now. Because it almost seems like that Patrick or the Chiefs might be going into a rebuild after this year or next, because they're throwing all this money in the front end of his contract and letting his back end have a lot less money. So there could be a chance where they restructure Dak's deal. But if he doesn't get it done this year, I could see.
Yeah, if he
a
doesn't get it done
potential
this year, like why
split.
bring him back? Because I mean, you're gonna have to pay him at least, I mean, absolute minimum $30 million a year for a quarterback.
Because you could trade him and possibly get some
could.
draft capital.
I just don't know if
but-
there's anybody
Oh,
that would be
I think
super into the Dak Prescott trade market. I mean, there definitely would be some teams, because like, look at the Jets right now. If this was happening in 2 years and the Cowboys kind of were thinking they would get rid of Dak and Aaron Rodgers goes down, you know what I mean? A situation like that pops up, then you ship Dak off to New York and you get a first-round pick.
Yeah.
So, but with that, I'm gonna go ahead and end my half of the segment, and I'm gonna throw it over to Riley with the 49ers scenario.
Yeah, so I got the 49ers cap situation, and I think they're going to start having some tough decisions that need to be made, and they need to tread very carefully the next couple of off seasons if they want to sustain success going through this transition. But next year they're on paper to have $17.7 million in cap space. Now they're losing Javon Kinlaw and Ceylon McFarrell, defensive tackle. They're a starter and a rotation piece at D end. Ray McLeod, a wide receiver, 27. Tayshaun Gibson, a safety, and their starting center. Now the first three I mentioned they're young enough you may want to keep them around. But you have to think the rookie class is going to eat up 10 to 15 million of that. So I've got a couple cut candidates for next year, which are really the only two that I thought freed up a reasonable amount of space. And that is Dre Greenlaw, frees up 6.9 million, but he is only 27. So I could see them wanting to keep him around. And fullback Kyle Juszczyk, who will be 33 in 2024, frees up 4.9 million. Now, moving into 25, they get some more cap space, but they also have more key pieces they may want to re-sign. They have $45 million in cap, but they've got to pay Brandon Ayuk, will be 27. And I don't think he will get a top 5 contract, but right now the 15th wide receiver is paid $18.3 million. So I think somewhere in that 18 to 23 range would be where they would probably want to if he keeps playing like he has been this year. Elijah Mitchell, a running back, I doubt they keep him around just because of the all the stigma with signing running backs, and they have already paid Christian McCaffrey, but they are also losing 3 DBs. So they're keeping a lot of their starters around at the risk of not having any depth.
Yeah.
And I feel like for the Niners, that could be a mistake. Now, cut candidates in 25, you could let go of CMC and free up 7.9. Trent Williams, 14.9. Kittle, 8.6. Warner, 9.7. Debo, 9.0. And Javon Hargrave is 7. So when I'm saying they're going to have to make a decision, like, you don't want to cut those guys, but you're also going to need to free up some space to bring depth pieces in. And I feel like that's really where the Niners are going to start struggling. And then in 26, they've got $136 million in cap, but they've got to pay Brock Purdy and 2 offensive linemen. Now, depending on how Brock Purdy shapes out, the 15th highest paid quarterback on average per year is Kirk at $35 million. So you can imagine a lot of the cap is going to go towards him. A lot of the cap is going to go to Brandon Ayuk if they do choose to re-sign him to a big deal. And then for cuts, the ones that I could definitely see were a 38-year-old Trent Williams. That frees up $29.4 million in cap. So I could definitely see them keeping him around in 25 and then cutting him in 26. Fred Warner at 29 is 15.8, and Fred Warner is one of the top 5, top 10 inside linebackers in the NFL. But there's also the stigma, just like with running backs. There's the stigma of, do you pay middle linebackers? And you saw Chicago with.
But then you guys
Smith
brought in Tremaine Edmonds, right?
To ship him off rather than pay him. And then yes, but we brought in all 3 of our starting linebackers are paid less than Roquan Smith's contract. So yes, we did bring in Tremaine Edmonds, but all of them are being paid less than what Roquan got. And then Javon Hargrave would be 33 and 26 and free up $15.4 million. So a lot of it is going to be when they elect to move off these older guys and how they go about, whether it's through the draft or through free agency.
It's all about drafting,
bringing some youth to the roster. But that's all I got. Yes. And drafting can make this a whole lot easier on the Niners. You know what I mean? Like if the Niners start hitting on their draft picks, like, then it's okay. We don't have to re-sign this guy because we got this guy who's playing great, and that helps towards the cap situation. What they cannot have is be trading completely. 3 first-round picks on a quarterback that plays 2 games.
Anybody else have anything they want to add to it? I think we pretty much summed up as well as we could for both of those. I don't think there's really a whole lot to add to it.
No debating.
So with that, I'm gonna move on to rapid fire questions. We started this last week. I think we're gonna keep it running, and I'm just gonna call somebody out, hit him with a question. I want a quick response, nothing long, just yes, no's. This is why. You don't even have to give a rationale if you don't want. You can just say yes or no. So I'm gonna start with Riley, and I'm gonna ask you: will Nick Chubb's knee injury cause him to retire?
I don't think retire, just because he's come back from it before and he knows what to expect with rehab. Because this is a terrible injury, but this is the second time he's had this injury.
That's a different answer. Don't you dare.
We saw Adrian Peterson go
Don't
for
you dare compare anybody to that god.
His ACL, so
that man is a freak
anything
of
can
nature.
Happen.
Agreed.
But no, I don't think this is the last we hear of Nick Chubb, even if it's like an Ezekiel Elliott role where they just bring him
Cool.
in on short yardage situations, and he's not
All right,
quite the
Victor,
same
I'm
back,
going to bring this
but
one
I
to
definitely
you.
feel like we see him again.
Quick response. Can Sean Payton fix the Broncos?
Can Sean Payton stop grilling Russell Wilson? Probably not. We just got to see more discipline and our defense, not the superstar defense, not give up 35 points a game. And
Okay.
it'll be fine.
That seems pretty simple.
But
Dalton, I'm going to throw this one at you.
Yeah.
Are the Falcons the real deal after beating the Packers, or were the Packers just frauds the whole time?
No, I don't think the Packers were frauds. Are they a top 5 team? Are they a top 10 team? I don't know, but I don't think the Packers are frauds. I do think the Falcons are looking perfect. I think they're looking very, very good. I didn't even know who their starting quarterback was at the beginning of the season, Desmond Ritter. And and they picked Bijan Robinson. I was really hoping the Cowboys were going to get Bijan Robinson in the draft, but he went to the Falcons. Obviously, they needed him more, but I'm excited to watch this Falcons team.
Yeah,
he's fantastic.
Lane,
I'd say Bijan was not going to fall down to the 20s.
No way.
Lane, this next one's for you. Is Jared Goff good enough to get the Lions to a Super Bowl?
I mean, I think he's good enough to do it. It's just, man. I mean, he's done great so far. He hasn't really done like anything bad. It's just can their defense step up whenever they need them to? That's where the Lions are kind of at for me right now. Can Jared Goff take them to the Super Bowl? Yes, absolutely. I'm on board with them.
Cool.
I agree with that.
All right. Riley, I'm gonna bring this one around to you. Puka Nacua, star or flash in the pan?
I think it's too soon to tell. I mean, you could really ask that questions about the Rams in general. So I'm gonna hold off my judgment until I see a little more from him. But
all right,
I definitely think he has the possibility. Of
I
being
can see
a
Victor's sweat
superstar.
rolling down the side of his head as Riley's giving that statement. All right, this one's for everybody. I'm gonna start with Dal. I'm gonna call on you, and I want one just one word answer. Okay.
Okay.
JJ or Tyreek? Dalton, go.
Tyreek.
Cooner, go.
JJ.
Vic, go. Riley, go.
JJ.
You know me, I'm going JJ. So now we're gonna move on to the next phase of this.
Tyreek.
Given I don't know what we're talking about him
Just
for,
just player, just the player,
context,
just the player on your team. Okay.
I would rather
I'd take
start
JJ.
with JJ since he's
Yep.
younger. But
So-
that's it.
The next one is JJ or Travis Kelce. If you could only have one in their prime, who are you taking? Dalton, go.
JJ.
JJ.
Cooner. Vic. Riley.
Kelsey.
I'm going JJ. JJ's our winner. JJ's our winner for best non-quarterback
JJ.
offensive player. I think the only other person that could challenge them is Christian McCaffrey, and I don't think running backs belong in that conversation personally.
Jesus.
So, and hey,
Very rude.
here's my thing.
Running backs
Heavy
live
sigh.
matters, okay? Running backs
Here's my thing
matter.
with running backs. Okay,
Nobody cares. Nobody
I've
cares.
already
heard your thing about
Yeah,
running
I get it.
nobody
You want to get
cares.
paid. You don't contribute to Super Bowl wins, so you're not getting paid. That's the end of the story. And with that, unless anybody,
I hate you, Brenner.
but hold on, wait, there's more.
But hold
There's a
on.
protest in the court.
The stats I
Yeah.
was given earlier about these running backs that are way outperforming the guys above them. How do you? They are these paid wide receivers. You know, people want to talk about
I
running
agree
backs
completely,
not
but at the
performing on big
end of the day,
contracts. Wide
name
receivers aren't
3
performing on big
all-star running
contracts.
backs that have won a Super Bowl since 2000.
You know what? Who gives a shit? They got them to the Super Bowl. Those running backs have got them to the Super Bowl just because they
But
didn't
they did.
they didn't perform well in the Super Bowl. Like
No, those teams didn't have all-stars running backs. That's my point.
The Cincinnati Bengals just
But
had
I don't
Joe
consider
Mixon.
him like an all-pro level running back. I consider him a solid running back, like absolutely a solid running back.
He's at least Pro Bowl. He's top 3 in the conference.
Eckler, Henry.
At the time,
I would maybe put him top 3 in the conference. I could see that. But did they win?
no. But did their
No,
defense
no,
perform either?
but they didn't
No.
win. That's the I'm talking about Super Bowl
Yeah,
winners
yeah.
here.
Offense sells tickets. Defense wins the championships.
Look at it. I think the formula the
It's
Lions
ludicrous.
are taking against all these like top flight offenses, like the reason they pulled that off.
The reason
in
they pulled that off in Kansas City
is
is because Kansas
of
City was
the
missing
way the
2/3 of its
team
best
is
players.
built. Like I don't think
You don't think if Chris Jones is in that game,
I don't think
winning
so.
40%
Like
of
I
his
don't know.
They were missing
I don't know
2
how
top
much.
10 potentially players in the NFL.
Yeah, well, hold on. They got them. They got them
They
both
still
but they
back
shut
and they
down an
scored less
electric
points
Jaguars
than
offense.
They did
I'm
against the Lions.
going to go on record saying the Jags offense is more talented
They
than the Lions offense.
I don't know. Like you said, man, we were just talking about that game.
I
Game
would
of inches.
say more
It
talented,
didn't,
but
they,
the Lions
they
are more
didn't get it.
explosive.
They didn't get it,
Yes,
so they
yes.
shut it down.
But the Lions ran the ball.
Without Chris
The
Jones.
Lions ran the
in
ball, drained the clock.
But they
didn't
did that
give
last year without Gibbs.
Mahomes a chance to run up the score on them. And I think we're going to start seeing more teams.
Jamal Williams, the least
had Jamal.
efficient running back
Yeah,
in
but
the
who
NFL
they
last
have
year.
at running back then?
And Swizzle.
Swifty. They had Swifty,
DeAndre Swift.
Pacheco.
but he was
I could have
Well,
thought
the
they had
Chiefs
someone
had
else
Pacheco.
too. Yeah,
He was
yeah.
someone that wasn't used
And
at
he,
all
he's
either last year.
inconsistent, but I mean,
I'm just we're getting off topic here. We're getting off
getting
track.
off
We're
track
rambling.
now.
We're doing the armchair quarterback thing that we're so good at doing. I'm gonna end my final statement on you shouldn't pay running backs because teams that win the Super Bowl don't have
Blah,
highly paid
blah,
running
blah,
backs.
blah.
That's my final
Blah,
statement.
Because they have a good defense.
You can rebuttal that however you want. That's my final say on the matter.
He probably would. Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll take it back
if
on
the
this
Niners
show
win the Super
I will
Bowl this
take it
year,
back.
will you take it back?
in front of America that I think you should pay any running back whatever they want if the Niners win the Super Bowl with Christian McCaffrey healthy.
Raheem Mostert just ran for 121 yards and 2 touchdowns. He gets paid $2 million a year. Ooh.
Exactly.
He can have
have
anyone do
anybody
it.
You just need a good. You just need a good lineman. You just need good linemen.
Yes. These are Bijan.
That's
Because of where
insane to
he
me.
drafted, is in the top 15 for highest paid running backs. If that says anything,
but does Bijan not
rookies
look
are
like one of the
making
best running
more
backs right now?
than even
He
that.
does.
He does.
I mean, he
I wanna say
looks
he's
top 5 right
Bijan
now.
Robinson.
honestly.
Yes, but before he ever. But if you were going into the season and he had not played a
No, 'cause we're
snap,
drafting
and
him in
you
the top
said
5 in
he was
fantasy
already
already.
a top
'Cause we already knew
15
he was-
highest paid
Yeah.
running
He was
back,
gonna be
is
that good.
not bizarre?
We
we already
knew he
knew
was
he
going
was
to be
gonna be
good
good.
though.
But name another.
Well, everybody else
name
is so much
another
more
position
highly
group
paid
that
because
happens.
they're worth it.
There isn't one.
Yeah.
Are they though?
There isn't another position that happens.
It's just a circle
worth it.
argument.
The other
man. We
positions
keep
are worth
coming
it.
around.
Why?
Yeah.
When you can,
I'm
when
not
you can
well
draft the top
educated in
5
And
that.
that's
back
my
each
point. Like you got to
position
start
salary.
paying these
already
guys
coming
more.
out of college right now. You can draft Bijan. They could have drafted a Bijan Robinson, top 5 back, as of right now, what we're seeing right out of college.
Yeah, maybe just because it's the easiest to
mean-
play.
Wait, you're saying running back is easiest to
Not the
play?
easiest to play, but
Now we're starting
Yeah,
a
yeah.
whole
Now
new
we're starting a
argument.
whole
This
new
is great.
thing. I'm gonna say this. I have a take on this actually, and it's a little bit on the other.
Yeah,
It's the
go back
hardest
to
position in
Chubb's
sports, in my
knee.
opinion. Everybody says it's either hitting a Major League Baseball or being an NFL quarterback, and I'm gonna say the hardest position on the football field is being a center. You have to do everything the quarterback has to do.
The hardest position is cornerback, in my opinion. Either corner or
Corner
quarter.
has a good debate, and quarterback does too. But I go center all day. They have to know every check the quarterback.
Center, you have help.
But
from
you have to
both
do
sides,
everything
either way.
mentally the quarterback has to do, plus snap the ball with a 350-pound lineman who can just put hands on straight away.
And you have a guard
But
next
not
to you
always.
blocking.
You don't always have a guard helping you. Sometimes you're in solo. You just manned up. It's 5-0. You get 5-0 lined up against you, and you just gotta you gotta accept that there's a 350-pound nose tackle about to eat your
All
lunch.
right, let's get to
Sometimes
bed.
they just line up 3 though.
Let's either do bets or
Yeah,
my start
sit
set, one or the
segment.
other.
Vic, go.
Super fast. Quarterback starting
Sit.
Russell Wilson. He has played well. He is also having a cupcake matchup against the Dolphins this week. I don't think the Dolphins, it's going to be a high-scoring game potentially. Their corners can't stop them without Jalen Ramsey out there. Sit, Jordan Love. He's playing the Saints. The coverage is going to be great. He's not going to have any kind of easy throws. And with sit for wide receivers, I also have Christian Watson as well as the Cincinnati wide receivers if Joe Burrow is out. Watson, he's coming back from a hamstring injury. I would not give him confidence yet. It usually takes a player a week or two in order to get back to full speed at wide receiver. Start for wide receiver, I got Zay Jones. I had it pulled up where he was playing at this week. It's Baltimore. Where did he go now? He's playing Indianapolis. He'll get a tutty.
He's calling Zay Jones
So,
Zay Jones tutty. I like it. I like the confidence.
Is
I'm
it
a-
Flowers or Zay Jones?
Anytime touchdown call.
There
Put
you
that
go.
in the
Yeah,
bet.
Zay Jones is playing the Texans.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers,
There we
sorry.
go. Yeah. Zay Flowers. Zay
I meant Zay
Flowers.
Flowers. My
Zay
apologies.
Flowers.
Running back wise, I have Miles Sanders against Seattle. Again, I think he's going to get a lot of dump off passes against the Seattle team, as well as possibly run for 100 yards. For sit, Zach Moss. Don't buy into his 25-point game last week. He's playing Baltimore this week. It's going to be a tough matchup. Start wise, if Kyle Pitts does have a good game, it's going to be this week against Detroit. They have no linebackers to cover. This is going to be the one game where Kyle Pitts scores his 1 or 2 touchdowns in the year, and then he
Irrelevant.
becomes non-existent for the rest of the year, basically. With where you drafted this player, I would probably sit. You can't really sit him because you drafted him high, but TJ Hawkinson might have a letdown game, especially with him going up against Derwin James with the Chargers. I don't see Derwin James shadowing either Addison or Jefferson. I see him possibly shadowing Hawkinson, and we saw what Derwin James did to Travis Kelce and buried him in the dirt
Yep.
last year.
Nope.
But for my actual sit candidate, I do have Hunter Henry. He has had a very hot start this year, but with them, I do see a potential letdown game. And against the Commanders, I just think the coverage for the Commanders will be able to limit Dalton Kincaid this week. I'm sorry, not Dalton Kincaid. Why did I say Kincaid? Hunter Henry. Who's the Patriots playing? The Jets. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome. I'm glad I was
I
able
do
to
think
help.
that they are going. I do think the Jets will be able to cover Hunter
So-
Henry.
Well, let's go. Love that.
Blazing
All right,
fast
so-
start sits.
Yeah,
quick bets
we-
real quick so I can just jump the room. I do have the Steelers money line against the Raiders. The Raiders are actually they're projected like they're 2.5-point favorites. I personally think the Steelers win that game. Shout out to Brenner last week for calling the Lions Seahawks game. I actually followed that and the over did hit. Thanks, buddy. Love it. I'm also going to take the
That for you.
Bills minus 6.5 over the Commanders. I am going to take the Dolphins minus 6.5 over the Broncos. And the Cowboys
Yeah.
sitting at minus
Absolutely.
12 over the Cardinals. I'm going to go ahead and jump on that. Because the Cowboys, their closest game so far has been by 20 points, and it's to a great defense led by the Jets. I'm going to say the Cowboys go into Arizona, and they cover the 12 points.
Drop another 40 burger.
Let's go.
I like the Colts
love it.
Ravens under as well at 44.5. Just throw that in there. So yeah,
Especially if A-Rich
I'm
is
gonna
out this
take.
week,
I'm gonna
too.
take a second.
So-
Throw another over out there. Take the Vikings Chargers over. I don't care what they
it's
put
going
it at.
up.
Take
It's
the over.
so I was
Both
gonna
of-
say that, but it
Yeah.
was at 51.5. Now it's at 54.5. So it's steadily going up.
If it's under 58.5, take it. If it's, I think both these teams are going to score 30. Both of these teams are top 2 in close games, in one-score games. The Chargers in the past, I can't remember, I think it's 5 seasons, 36 of their games have been decided by one score or less, and the Vikings have 37 such games decided by one score or less. This is going to be a close game. It's going to be a shootout. Take it and run. It's going to just take the over.
54
Do
and a
not.
half, I would
don't worry
probably
about
be right there with you, but 54
Don't worry
and a
about it.
half is kind of high. It's actually the highest game of the week. I know.
I'm going
but,
heavy.
Man, if it
I'm
was
going
like
heavy
3 or
on the
4
over.
points lower, then yes, I'd be right there with you. But it's a little high for me.
It's gonna be a high scoring affair. It's gonna be electric. It's gonna be a lot of fun. But with that, unless anybody else has anything to say, we're gonna get out of here. We rambled on for far too long. You guys are probably bored out of your minds. But if you made it to the end of the video or the podcast, please share, like, subscribe, all the good stuff, and we will see you next week.